Okay, this is my 7th week doing this. I might even get used to singing to my phone here eventually. Those who don't know who I am, I'm Trevor Baker. I guess it's always good to introduce yourself because it could be somebody else listening don't know who I am. Just a simple guy. God gave me a new lease on life. I was a suicidal young person and mixed up, confused, doing a lot of things I shouldn't have been doing, and I found a God that changed my life. I in a pickup truck, crying, and he started giving me songs. When I was 30 years old, I picked up a guitar. It wasn't my plan, but I was out yesterday, sitting out beside a field and singing about some of the old songs. This world is not my home, I'm only passing through. My treasure is laid up somewhere beyond the blue. I can't feel at home in this world anymore. And this, I've been doing this 20 years. I was in Idaho last year, and a guy comes up, he says, "You're doing this 20, you're still nervous. What's wrong with you?" I don't know. It just, it is what it is. And, but this song here, so a few years back, I was singing in a church one day. You realize you get up and you're singing in some settings. I meet a lot of wonderful Christians that do. But you get in certain settings sometimes and you're singing and they're looking at you almost like they don't know what you're talking about. And they're in church. It's scripted church. And that morning was a long weekend, I remember, and there was 5 visitors that came to that church. They were from different parts of the country. And they had a little, stand up, introduce yourself. And each one of them said something about God. It was really special. And I thought, it's like God sent them there. It was almost like Sesame Street. One of these is not like the others. As I looked out at the crowd, you could see these 5 people. They stood out. And the others were just kind of looking at me. And just kind of the scripted religion, is the wheel. And I think, you're just not sure. Do they know him? Do they know this God? Because, the Pharisees in the Bible, they went through this. They studied this thing inside out, but they didn't know him. They were religious people. But you meet those ones, and there's a lot more of them out there. We're not alone. I'm not alone. And this song was on the way home from that church. I pulled over, 5-hour drive, and I sat on the side of the road. And a little recorder mic, and this song kind of came out. And as we're looking around at the world today, it's called Nothing Makes Sense. Sometimes in church stuff, it looks a little weird too. It can. But we're not alone. And don't let what's going on in this world right now drive you crazy. Tune it out and go talk to God. Get along with him. He'll give you some peace and take you back to where heaven was all that meant anything to you when nothing makes sense. Guy on the soapbox on the corner is trying hard but has no point. The TV news reporter says this world's an awful joint. People clamoring for freedom, storing guns and loving war. And nothing really makes sense anymore. They got their eyes fixed on the market in case their stock goes up. Their main purpose for existence is to have a fuller cup. The whole thing leaves me thirsty, and each day's another chore. 'Cause nothing really makes sense anymore. All I know is that I'm homesick, and the feeling won't subside. I'm on the backstretch gaining speed, and I don't plan on breaking stride. Heaven's where I'm going. I'm so glad God knows the score. When nothing really makes sense anymore. church house was so peaceful, even that's now gone berserk. Any big mouth with a Bible can spout off and be a jerk. Scripted, empty talking leaves a guy worse than before, and nothing really makes sense anymore. I watch them in the airport, and I don't really mean to stare. Faces in their laptop barely coming up for air. They don't need God, 'cause they got Google and their favorite online store. And nothing really makes sense anymore. All I know is that I'm homesick, and the feeling won't subside. I'm on the backstretch gaining speed, and I don't plan on breaking stride. Heaven's where I'm going, I'm so glad God knows the score. But nothing really makes sense anymore. If you start out in the choir, end up singing in the bar. The church crowd is applauding, saying, boy, he's going far. If he gets big, goes to Vegas, they'll be buying seats galore. I tell you, nothing really makes sense anymore. And phony junk religion loves to make the biggest splash. It's really nothing new, it's always been about the cash. Living in glass towers, sucking money from the poor. And nothing really makes sense anymore. All I know is that I'm homesick, and the feeling won't subside. I'm on the backstretch gaining speed, and I don't plan on breaking stride. Heaven's where I'm going, I'm so glad God knows the score. But nothing really makes sense anymore. I wonder what has happened to those words called right and wrong. It seems they've been relegated to preaching poetry and song. Nobody wants to live and breathe it, I mean that would be a bore. Nothing really makes sense anymore. All I know is that I'm homesick, and the feeling won't subside. I'm on the backstretch gaining speed, and I don't plan on breaking stride. Well, heaven's where I'm going, I'm so glad God knows the score. But nothing really makes sense anymore. Yeah, heaven's where I'm going, I'm so glad God knows the score. But nothing really makes sense anymore. You know, yesterday was Mother's Day, and you know those praying grandmas? You know how amazing they can be? I've had more encouragement from praying grandmas. It kept me going. And this is a song about a praying grandma. In 2004, I knew her for 5 years. She passed away at 75 years old. And it was 10 years ago now. But I had a couple of phone calls one week from 2 preachers, and they told me basically that my songs were dangerous, and I had no business in the church. I was like, don't sing those kind of songs, Trevor. And it just knocked me for a loop. It just crumbled me. And I remember, I thought, well, maybe I am doing wrong, Lord. I don't mean to be saying, questioning things, and maybe I analyze things too much, and I don't want to be too hard on the church and hard on people, and I'm not trying to do that, God. Well, God knew. A few days later, I got a phone call from a praying grandma who I never even knew who she was. She'd never been at a concert. Somebody just gave her one of my DVDs. And all I know is she got on the phone, this little quivering voice. And she said, "You must not stop. Keep doing what you're doing." And see, some of these praying grandmas, I'll give you 2 other examples of praying grandmas. One was in a church in the United States when I went on a tour a few years ago, and I was just so afraid. I got up the first concert, and I'd be singing songs about America and saying, "We lost your way." I'm thinking, what right do I have to do that? I'm from Canada. And I spent half the night apologizing for everything I said. This little praying grandma took me off the stage, took me over to the corner. And she said, "You didn't say too much." She said, "You didn't say enough." She goes, "America's terrible." I knew a time when we lived for God, and something has gone wrong. We don't have those hearts like we did. And I'll give you one other example. I was in the eastern United States, and I was in a church one morning, and I went in, and I was told before I went in that there was 100 people in that church, and there was 18 new converts in the last year, and I thought, wow, that's amazing. I got to get up and sing to them. This is going to be real cool. And they had testimony time, but nobody stood up. I thought that was a little odd, but because I remember times when I was a young Christian, I couldn't help but stand up. I was scared to death, but I had to say a couple words. I'd be shaking in my boots, but I had to thank God because He changed my life. And I tried to find those faces when I was singing. I couldn't. I was looking for. I thought they'll stand out because Christians are weird. I mean, they smile at the wrong time. They do all kinds of things wrong. They don't know how the program works. But I was having a hard time finding them. And a little old lady took me, a praying grandma, she's a pastor's wife, who's the former pastor of that church. She took me over in a corner, with little shaky hands, and she held my hand, and she said, "It's all gone. It's all gone." And what did she mean by that? Obviously, she'd seen a time when people got converted to Christ. Their lives changed. And I know that still happens today. I don't want to be too hard. I know God's still changing lives. But something is changed in the church. It's not quite the same. And this, if I can title what I'm doing tonight, is let's get back to basics. Maybe we need to go and talk to some old praying grandma. Not every grandma. Not all grandmas and grandpas go to heaven, Just because they make apple pie and stuff doesn't mean they're going to heaven. But there's some real ones out there, and they know this world means nothing to them. They're the ones we should be taking advice from in days like we're living right now. She was frail and oh so caring. There was a softness in her eyes. We all knew that came from praying every morning when she'd rise. They called her Grandma Esther. She was more than just a friend. Her phone calls were so special, and all those letters she would send. She was a tribute to her name. Her faith was strong just like her God. She never deemed herself to be that way, hadn't gave it that much thought. Her hours were much too busy. There were others on her mind. She was a source of inspiration in these days that's hard to find. And I sure hope her mansion's on my street. I'd love to kneel beside her at his feet. We'd have daily strolls together down Heaven's Avenue. made brand new. You see, her wheelchair was a hindrance. Her legs were mostly done. She couldn't walk among the flowers and feel the warm summer sun. But inside her sanctuary, that little house on 2nd Street, she'd lift her heart and talk to Jesus. That's what made her life complete. As her years were winding down, I'd hear heaven in her voice. She made me want to go there with her, if God would give me such a choice. Words cannot describe it, even songs can't quite convey the warmth I'd feel inside me when she'd hold my hand to pray. And I sure hope her mansion's on my street. I'd love to kneel beside her at his feet. We'd have daily strolls together down Heaven's Avenue. Just me and Grandma Esther, made brand new. Now some folks live for money, and to some this life's a game. Most don't have a wheelchair, but they're crippled just the same. Just an hour with Grandma Esther would surely change them for the good. They'd be living right, doing things they never thought they would. 'Cause there was power in her weakness, enough to melt a heart of stone. And I'm sure she never realized the seeds that she had sown. I know heaven's such a big place, with dwellings far and wide, and we don't get to choose our neighbors. But with this song, I've surely tried. Yes, I sure hope her mansion's on my street. I'd love to kneel beside her at his feet. We'd have daily strolls together down Heaven's Avenue. Just me and Grandma Esther, made brand new. We'd have daily strolls together down Heaven's Avenue. Just me and Grandma Esther, made brand new. Just me and Grandma Esther, made brand new. And I got time for one more here. This is a new song God gave me just a couple weeks ago or so, I guess it was. And it's called We'll Be Surprised. And I remember a preacher years ago, and I've heard it, I guess, more than once, but an old preacher said one time, I think, we'll be surprised who is and isn't in heaven one day. And, you know, sometimes, like I've traveled, I see things, you know. You meet these people, they're not even on the map. And nobody knows who they are. Some Sunday school teacher or whatever, some little old lady or sometimes little children, people talk to you and think, wow. Like they know God. And sometimes I've been, you know, you meet some wonderful preachers too and wonderful singers. But then you meet others, sometimes they get up and they're preaching and they're singing and you're just not sure. They just kind of know all the words. And you're just not quite sure because you talk to them afterwards and you think, And you know, I think it's actually possible to sing about God and even preach about God and lead people to Him and not even go to heaven ourselves. It's possible to do that. I believe that very much. Bring that message and lose it in our own heart. Get caught up in our own ministry and forget that, you know, but for the grace of God, where would I be today? God doesn't need Trevor Baker. He doesn't need Trevor Baker's big ministry. Well, big whoopie-doo, you know, like, it's not a big ministry, it's a small. We just do our small part. And there's others out there, I've seen a little bit on Facebook, and you're doing small parts, and you're singing some songs. You keep singing. I've seen, you know, sometimes I turn on some, and there's a heart. You just sing for God. Keep doing it. We'll be surprised who is and isn't in heaven. One day all will be revealed. There'll be no place to hide. We'll be surprised at those pearly gates, just who we will meet and which ones never made it and are absent on the street. Oh, we often talk about the ones who will gather on the shore, and how we are so eager for when time shall be no more. There might be some around the throne who were never recognized, some pretty big names missing. Yes, I think we'll be surprised. So-and-so was famous, known throughout the earth. Crowds would come to hear them preach about the second birth. Their books adorned the shelves and were oh so highly prized. But at roll call in heaven, I think we'll be surprised. And he was just a beggar, walked up and down the street, wasn't welcome in the church, not even on the far back seats. But one day he surrendered, though he never was baptized. Most would write him off, but one day we'll be surprised. We'll be surprised who is and isn't in heaven. One day all will be revealed. There'll be no place to hide. We'll be surprised at those pearly gates, just who we will meet, and which ones never made it, and are absent on the street. This one knew the Bible, it quoted verse by verse. This one spent near 60 years just learning how to curse. One can sing Amazing Grace, the other has it in their eyes, 'cause they found out what it means. Yes, I think we'll be surprised. So be careful who you're looking to. All those names so well known, they may be polished speakers, but they will reap what they have sown. He may have spoke of heaven, but will he go there when he dies? Yes, all will be made known one day. I think we'll be surprised. We'll be surprised who is and isn't in heaven. One day all will be revealed. There'll be no place to hide. We'll be surprised. Those pearly gates, just who we will meet, which ones never made it, and are absent on the street. And which ones never made it, and are absent on the street. God doesn't want anybody to be absent on the street. That's not what He wants. He wants us to all be there. But we have to swallow our pride. We have to walk humbly before our God. We have to be content in this world. Sometimes we get all frazzled by what's going on right now and think, we got to change everything. You can't change this world except to lead them to a Savior. A heart, one heart at a time. That's the only way you make a change in this world. There's all kinds of injustice. You can't fix it. It's been around since Jesus was here. He didn't deal with that. He went for the hearts. Change the heart. And that's what Jesus does. And He wants to do that for you. There's some people out there, you listen, some of you have been turned off by hypocrisy. That's understandable. It was there when Jesus was here. It is there. It's true. But God is no hypocrite. And He wants to change your life. Don't use it as an excuse. I could use it if I wanted to. I did. No. This God's amazing. He changes lives. And anyway, thank you for listening. I hope I said something tonight. I'm not a salesman, but I've been told maybe I should do this. I have a book. It's free, okay? It's just a story about my life called Road Stories. I got 14 different CDs. 2 of them are